The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
Welcome back to First Mover Live from Davos, Switzerland. Bank of America released a new report this week finding central bank digital currencies have the potential to revolutionize global financial systems. And joining us now to discuss is Jennifer Lassiter. She's the executive director of the Digital Dollar Project, a nonprofit that is working to bring awareness about the advantages of CBDCs. Jennifer, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So did you hear about this Bank of America report? What are your thoughts? I imagine you agree.
I think it is yet to be proven, right? And that's part of what we're discussing here in Davos this week, bringing together private sector, NGO, central bankers to be able to talk about how we build resiliency in our global systems. One of those tools can be central bank digital currency, and we're seeing a lot of global exploration now. And part of that exploration is understanding both should you deploy a CBDC, and if so, what design choices best reflect the values of your country.
All right. And taking a look at the Digital Dollar Project specifically, it's been around for quite some time. Where are we in the United States in terms of innovation for CBDCs? And are we falling back compared to other nations?
I think we are not first out of the gate, but historically that is on brand for the United States when it comes to large global systemic change. For the Digital Dollar Project, we were founded and released a white paper in 2020 by former CFTC Chairman Chris Giancarlo and a collection of advisory board members, about 40 subject matter experts and global leaders. And we've just republished the white paper with 2 years of data globally to be able to analyze how far we've come, how relevant our original hypothesis was, and to start to tweak some of the experimentation to make sure that it is evolving with the standards and the data that's evolving globally.
We have a timeline in the United States where we might be testing or some sort of retail or wholesale CBDC.
So we've seen a couple projects come out of the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York last year announced Project Lassiter, which was a wholesale CBDC experiment. They also are acting as an observer to the Regulated Liabilities Network pilot. We have Project Hamilton, which we all know and have tracked for several years now out of the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. And more recently, we've seen action to build out a central bank digital currency research team for the Federal Reserve System. At the same time, we're seeing a shift in leadership on Capitol Hill, a development of a digital currency subcommittee under the House Financial Services Committee and Chair McHenry's leadership. So I think this year is where we're going to start to see a focus on how we can both legislate and experiment around CBDCs.
All right. I want to turn to one Bank of America analyst who wrote that CBDCs have, quote, the potential to revolutionize global financial systems and may be the most significant technological advancement in the history of money, which is interesting considering the significance of the timing with the WEF. Is that any coincidence?
I don't know. Bank of America has had a couple statements on CBDCs across the past year. I think what is really important to track and where we've focused our conversations on the promenade is around standard setting. So there are a lot of design choices that could make it a revolutionary technology or development within the financial system. But if we repeat the system that we have at large and make some policy adjustments, we will not see some of those efficiencies that we see by employing emerging technologies. By focusing on global standards, we can start to create a very healthy ecosystem for anything that's tokenized. And you can imagine that, of course, stablecoins, CBDCs, cryptocurrencies within the financial sector. You can go beyond that and think of the tokenization of objects or the healthcare system, but starting to set standards globally around how we want these systems to interoperate and which principles we want for the innovation to drive towards.
Should there be some more cooperation globally? Because otherwise we'll have this fragmentation of CBDCs between China, even in Switzerland, they're developing their own. How do you develop some sort of collaboration, cohesive incorporation?
I think that's exactly right. There will always be a flavor of CBDCs, a pot of CBDCs, because each country will have a different reason and prioritize different design choices in their development, should they develop. But we do need to come together collectively, both as governments and as private sector, to fully reflect the end user's needs as we're thinking about those standards. World Economic Forum is one place where that unfolds. We'd like to see it Digital Dollar Project that unfold on U.S. soil as well. So stay tuned to this space. We're hoping to have some movement on that this year.
Are you cooperating with any countries in particular?
Yes.
Which ones? Can you
we
reveal?
are still working on getting confirmations, and we're very excited. One of the things that I think is really important is open and transparent development of all conversations, whether it be policy or literal code, right? And there's lots of reasons that openness is important. The most important, in my opinion, is trust, and establishing trust, regardless of where you sit on the spectrum. Trust with your government, trust with your private sector entity that might be providing your wallet, that's providing your digital currency in the future. But we start with a lot of stakeholders at the table, and we make sure that we are collaboratively designing towards what those protocols might be, so that every innovation that sits on top is able to work with each other.
So now there's a Digital Dollar Project white paper that's been updated. Can you give us some of the key takeaways out of that?
I think the biggest takeaway is that privacy is of utmost importance. So we'll be spending 2023 focused on defining optionality, both with technology and policy, around how privacy might manifest in a central bank digital currency, and really starting to think about, or really reimagining some of the regulatory system that would support this new financial infrastructure.
So the world's first CBDC was the sand dollar out of the Bahamas, which has reportedly struggled after the collapse of FTX. Do you worry about recent headlines and cooling crypto markets will impact the development of CBDCs at all?
I have not seen that. I've not seen that domestically in the United States. I think it is a signal that we see both legislative action in terms of testimony and other actions around FTX, but it is also a signal that they're standing up a digital currency subcommittee that's focused on a variety of digital currency related topics. What has been encouraging in our conversations has been the very clear delineation between technology and the actors that might be using it. And that helps with central bank digital currency as we're thinking about how we might regulate CBDC or support CBDC through legislation, and being able to separate the outcomes that we're driving towards from the technology itself.